Today's episode is brought to you by MRO. MRO is the single source for smarter data. Driving a new era of clinical data intelligence, we connect structure and transform data into actionable insights that enable confident decisions, sharpen operations, accelerate research, and elevate patient care. With 24 years of trusted solutions and partnerships, MRO empowers a stronger healthcare ecosystem built on smarter data so teams can measure, learn, and improve. Learn more at www.mrocorp.com. HIPcast is brought to you by Enterprise Social Record.
Hey, Seth, it feels like it's been a long time since I've seen you.
It has been a while. Our last episode, you were on vacation, I believe, so it was kind of weird to only be the only host on that one. I didn't like it, so I'm glad you're back. It's a lot of pressure.
I'm glad to be back. I'm so glad to be back. I missed you, and I am sorry that I wasn't there. Especially, I didn't get to meet the guest that day. So, but today we have a new guest that is new to me. Seth has met and talked with Melissa Haycock-Palmer a few times, and she's becoming a fast friend to Tennessee Health Information Management Association. So welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thanks, guys. I'm excited to be here today.
We're going to talk today about really mentoring and volunteerism and what has that meant to your profession and your growth, maybe even some of your personal growth out of that. So I'm excited to have you here. Seth, it feels so good to be back. Let me just say.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Absolutely. Time to talk to people. That's what we do best.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with us is we want to talk the whole time. It's time for us to listen. So, Melissa, I heard a little bit of your story because you're going to speak at the THIMA meeting coming up here soon. So, but I thought it was such a great story and inspiring, and I wanted to have you share that with the broader audience because we do have a larger audience across the country with the podcast here. So our standard starting question is, tell us about your HI journey. How'd you find this crazy profession?
It's a pretty amazing story. I usually tell this story in when people ask me, what's your story? And I usually try and pay attention to my audience, because some people are very receptive and some people won't be receptive. But I'm going to tell you my whole story. And I'm going to tell you how it came down, because honestly, how I ended up in the HIM world was really, truly divinely guided and divinely inspired. I am someone who strives to be a good Christian woman. I have a very deep faith in God. And I try to consistently nurture that relationship that I have with my higher power. So October of 2003, I was 21 years old and 27 weeks pregnant. And my mother passed away. She was 46 years old. And that was rough. Let me tell you. I mean, I don't care how old you are. Like, I am now in my 40s. There are days I still need my mom. Right? It doesn't matter how old you are, you still need that mom. So I was 21, and it took us a while to get the results back, but she had pneumonia and didn't know it, and passed in her sleep. So I was just 46 years old. It was rough, and some other things happened that same week that my mother passed, and I had to make some very hard decisions in my life, and I had to cut ties with my father. So essentially, in 1 week at 21 years old, I lost both of my parents. And here I was becoming a parent myself. And so after my daughter was born, and she is now happy and healthy and 22 and amazing, and that girl is my ride or die. I was going through severe postpartum depression, because not only had I lost my parents, I was young, I was a brand new mom, I was going through it. And I was lying in bed one night. And with my postpartum depression, I would experience sundowning. Like everything got really hard at night. And so I was lying in bed one night, and I was just pleading. I was pleading with God, help me, help me, help me. That was all I could say over and over again was help me, help me, help me. And I'm lying there just pleading with God for help. And I hear this voice that says, go volunteer at the hospital. What? That's not what I was asking for. I mean, I just want to sleep. I just want to feel better. And I was like, and the voice comes back, go volunteer at the hospital. And the moment that I accepted what I heard, I immediately fell asleep. Wow. And so the next day, you know, I talked with my ex-husband. I was like, hey, this is what happened. He goes, you know, I think it would be really good. Just give it a chance. Just go do it. So I called the volunteer coordinator at American Fork Hospital in American Fork, Utah, which was my closest hospital, which is a part of the Intermountain Healthcare Network. They're the largest healthcare provider in the state of Utah. It's a company that I've worked for 3 times and absolutely love. So small shout out to them. But I called the volunteer coordinator. Now, I was living in Utah at the time. And fun fact about Utah is they have the highest volunteer rate in the nation. Yeah. So when I called the volunteer coordinator, she's like, I don't know what to do with you. I have a waiting list for the waiting list. And I don't know how to help you. And I was like, well, I'm just following just this prompting that I've had. And she says, you know what, bring your resume down. Let's take a look and we'll see what we can do. So I brought my resume down and she takes a look and she says, you know, you've got a lot of office experience. And our volunteer, we just had a volunteer in the medical records department just left. Would you like to go in there? And I said, yes. And at that point, I didn't care. I was following this divine instruction. I was following what was being given. And I didn't care if I was flipping burgers or delivering flowers. But you know what? I said, yes. I was a 22-year-old pink lady. And I rocked that jacket. Let me tell you.
That's awesome.
I was a 22-year-old pink lady and I loved it. And so I went into medical records and fell in love. I fell in love with the whole world. I found my niche. I found my passion. I found something that I was good at. That's awesome. And what came from a prayer of help me set me on the path of my entire career. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that even though I was in this very dark place and all I wanted to do was just be happy. I just wanted to be able to soak up this newborn baby joy and I couldn't. And instead I was guided for something that brought me a long-term happiness. So when I tell you, I literally started at the bottom in an unpaid volunteer position in HIM, I did. And I was there for 2 years as a volunteer and then I got hired on. And then in 2013, I found myself in this very toxic, hostile work environment. And I was like, I can't do this. And I had learned as much as I could without a degree and without an RHIT. And I was doing things, you know, for my manager that were, you know, very similar to RHIT things, but I realized I needed to go back to school. So I went back to Weber State University and I want to shout out to them because those people at Weber State. So shout out to Darcy Carter, Heather Merkley, Mylan Palmer, Rick Martin, and to my baby sister, Brittany, who actually works for Weber State and that department. She does the recruiting for their master's programs. So shout out to them because those people still to this day, even 10 years after I've graduated, they still contact me. They still like, hey, they're very, very encouraging. So I went to Weber State for my undergraduate and then I went to Grand Canyon University for my graduate degree and my graduate degree is in healthcare informatics. And I burned through all of that in 5 years. And let me tell you, I was exhausted.
You were.
Yeah. And I remember the day that I graduated with my master's degree and I was like texting my ex-husband in the middle of the ceremony. I'm like, I want the floppy hat. I want my doctorate. And the first thing that my kids tell me when they find me after I get my master's is, okay, Mom, we're done. You can't have a doctorate. I was like, dang it.
But Seth and I are here to tell you, yes, you can.
Yeah, that's next. Yes, you got to do
it. Thanks. But I've worked for acute care. I have worked in rural health. I've worked in long-term care and I've also right now I work in long-term care, but I've also worked in behavioral health too. So I've had the experience of working in various aspects of healthcare. And I haven't had your typical, you start out here, you become a manager and then you become this, like that typical journey that we see a lot of people take. No, I've been all over the place. I mean, I've worked in rural health in California and Oregon, and I'm working in long-term care. And that's one of the things I love about this HIM world is that you don't have to just stick with one thing. There's so many things that you can do with it. So that's my story. And I love my story. And I am grateful to God for helping me that night because it put me on the path to where I am 20 years later.
Yeah, I love it. I have a couple of, thoughts, questions about your story. So first of all, Seth and I are here to tell you, and as we often do, that service and volunteerism enriches your life exponentially. Mm-hmm. And so you have just set it in a place of a divine kind of appointment, which is really awesome. And so, I do want to go back though to the postpartum discussion, just for a quick moment. You talked about being young. You talked about losing both your parents in that same short span, and life really felt overwhelming. But let's also not discount, since we're going to talk about it. Sorry, Seth. Let's not discount the ridiculous raging of the hormones that women face in that whole pregnancy cycle and after that. Postpartum is real. And so if you find yourself facing postpartum, please seek help. Just
absolutely
get support from family, get support from your providers, from your health insurance company. If you have health insurance, just don't kind of like stay in that. And then I wanted to know the hospital that you volunteered with, where you became the youngest pink lady maybe in history. Was that the same hospital where your mother had been?
No, my mother had died at home.
Okay, got it.
My mother had died at home, but that is the hospital where both of my children were born.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And, yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize what I was going through. I didn't realize I was experiencing postpartum depression. I was very, very lost, and I was in this very dark place. And, my ex-husband, we've recently divorced, but the poor boy, we were very young.
Yeah, poor boy.
The poor boy. He didn't know how to help me.
Of course not.
He saw me hurting, and I didn't know how to help myself. I didn't know what to do. And I was trying to accept the situation that, here I am, I'm a new mom. And it's very hard because you go from having to be able to take care of yourself to suddenly you have another human that you're responsible for. And it's hard to, as a new mom, or even as a mom, I don't care how old your kids are. Yeah. Even as a mom, it's hard to find that place of individuality that says, I need help, when everybody's focusing on the baby.
Yes.
Is the baby okay? Got to feed the baby, got to take care of the baby, got to take care of the child. I mean, I still, my daughter's 22. I still take care of my daughter in the best way I know how, even though she lives states away, Yes. We don't look at that individuality of who we are. And it's very hard to step up and say, I need help.
Yeah.
One thing I learned in working in behavioral health, that we had our biggest AMAs were moms.
Wow.
Really?
Because they would come in and they would I need help, and they would leave within the first 3 days because there was nobody to take care of their kids, their babies. Yeah. And so we see that in long-term, in behavioral health, where the one patient leaves the most is the mom.
Wow. I did not know that stat. Is that true nationally, do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have the data in front of me, but if that came back, that says, moms are the ones that leave AMA most frequently in behavioral health, services. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's reasonable to believe that it would be, but it just has never occurred to me. So thank you for sharing that. That's an important discussion. I didn't know we were going to have a public service announcement about getting help, but we definitely need to.
And you know what? When it comes to mental health, as somebody who lives with chronic PTSD and depression and anxiety, you are not alone.
Yes, right.
You are not alone. And sometimes the biggest barrier that we face is who's going to help me, and how is it going to be paid for? But just know that you are wanted and you are loved, and it's okay to speak up and say, help me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. So this journey started for you. I'm so thankful for the volunteerism that you did that led you down this path, because it did save your life probably in a lot of ways, and it enriched your life just exponentially. So let's talk a bit about, we already obviously know that you're a big fan of volunteerism, but what's your experience been, and why would you recommend people get involved?
I was raised in a very service-centered faith, serving other people. It was something that I learned very young as a child, and was heavily reinforced as a young adult, or just even as a teenager. And spoiler alert, everybody, I knew the questions beforehand. And so I was thinking about volunteerism and thinking about some of the things that I did. And one of the examples that came to my mind, or an experience that came to my mind, was there was this little old lady, and her daughter and 4 teenagers attended our church, but the grandma did not. And they needed help in their yard, just some simple yard work. And so most people would look at that and go, you know what, grandma, she doesn't attend our church, she's not our problem. And on top of that, she's got a daughter and 4 teenagers who are absolutely capable of doing this. So why should we help? But I remember that night when about 25 of us young teenagers from church and about 10, 12 adults all went over to their house, and in 2 hours had the yard completely taken care of.
That's awesome.
And it went from, and what I learned later was that there were some other things going on in that home, and things that the family was struggling with, that by us coming in to take care of their yard, just yard work. And it wasn't anything fancy. It was the lawn needed to be mowed, and this needed to be trimmed, and take care of this and that. And it was just easy yard work. That it went from being this burden of, this is another thing that I have to do, to, I got help, and now I can make room emotionally for the other things that are coming into my life. One of the proudest moments I've ever had as a mom was years ago. My kids and I were living in Northern California, and we were in this very socioeconomically depressed area. It was so depressed that the Methodist Church once a week put on a free meal for the entire community. And it was a few hundred people that would show up to this meal. And well, the only way they could make it work was by other organizations and other churches being responsible to do the meal. So my church was responsible. I think I remember twice, but maybe there was a third time we were responsible. But we would do the meal twice a year. And so I told my kids, I was like, guys, we're doing the community meal. We need to show up. We're going to volunteer, and we're going to help out. And of course they're 10 and 13 are like, please don't make us do this. And I'm like, I know, it's okay. You poor things. You have to go serve other people, like typical kid stuff. And so we went and we helped prepare the food. We helped set up, we helped serve, we helped clean up. We did the whole thing. And I remember the look on my kids' faces when they got into the car, where they were just so bright. And they're like, Mom, that was amazing. Can we do that next week? And I was like, I really wanted to tell him yes, but I was like, guys, we can't next week because somebody else is doing it. And they were bummed because they're like, that was just so great, because they felt the joy of serving others. They felt, they saw those kids that they were going to school with being served a meal. And for some people in that community, that was the one hot meal they got that week. During the summertime, it was probably the one dinner that these kids got during the week. Yeah. They saw their classmates, they saw their community, and they were excited about what they had done and what they had been doing. And they wanted to do it again. So when we serve and when we volunteer, not only is our cup supposed to be filled at the same time when as we're filling others, it's supposed to bring us together. It's supposed to make us feel better. I posed the question in my presentation, because I'm talking about growing our next generation of HIM professionals, and I bring in volunteerism, and I ask, well, what keeps you from volunteering? And the one response that always that really got me was return on investment. When we go in and we volunteer and when we serve, it's supposed to fill our cup too. We're supposed to walk out feeling like, man, that was great. I needed that. I needed to take care of somebody else for a minute. I needed to do something else beyond myself. But yeah, there's times when we volunteer and it doesn't fill our cup. It happens. Time is another one. Sometimes we're just, I think about those state associations where, your president and president-elect are in there for, your board members are in there for 2 years. So if you're a president or president-elect, that's a 4-year commitment. And some people just like that's a lot. I'm not necessarily willing to put 4 years of my life into this, which is fine, because we can only do what we can do. But it's hard. Sometimes we just don't have the time. And then sometimes we just don't have that emotional capacity because we we're going through postpartum depression. We're going through something that right now I have to fix me, and I can't move on from it. But I've seen the power that comes from serving. I've seen the power, that comes from showing up for someone else.
Preaching to the choir, definitely,
right?
with Shannan and I, because I know both of us are very big on volunteering in our communities, through our churches, and then the tie-in professionally as well is fantastic, because I don't know that that's something that a lot of people think about. Is they may say, okay, well, I can go volunteer with my church, or I can go volunteer with a community organization, but you can also volunteer professionally.
Absolutely.
And whether that's helping the CAs, whether that's helping, doing the president's role, it could be something as simple as working the registration desk at a meeting. I tell the teams that I support, go volunteer at the local chapter of the healthcare thing, and just offer to do the registration desk. They're looking for people. And then, from a professional perspective, that's incredibly enriching, because it's networking, you're building contacts, but it's also, that's an interesting question to shift that towards like mentoring the younger professionals into that. So how do we strengthen the current workforce of either students or new professionals, or even second career professionals that may not know the crazy volunteerism that we all beg for in the HI world? So what do you think about the mentoring side of this?
The mentoring side of it is, honestly, guys, I would not be sitting here today in the capacity that I am without my mentors. I had a mentor. I've had lots of mentors over the years, and my most recent mentor, I've been through a lot in the last 3 years. Let me tell you, my son passed away 3 years ago, and I got divorced last year. And I also moved states twice. I had my dream job last year, and then suddenly I am here in Paulsbo, and I'm all over the place. Like I have been through a lot in the last 3 years. And my last mentor I met the month my son died. And I came back to work, but I was going through the motions of it all. As you do when you're grieving. And an opportunity came by, and he called me, or he sent me a message one day. He says, "Hey, I need to talk to you tomorrow." And here I am thinking, man, I'm gonna lose my job. And he calls me one day, he calls me the next day, and he's like, "So I was making pancakes for my kids, and I was thinking about you, thinking I was underutilizing you." Okay, first of all, we're gonna pause on this story, because I'm the mom that hoping, I never made my kids pancakes on a school day. I mean, they were lucky to have Pop-Tarts in the cupboard on their way out the door. And he's making pancakes for his kids on a school day. And then second, when I'm making pancakes, I'm thinking, am I going to burn this one? Is this one going to be undercooked? Do I have enough batter? Is there syrup? Oh man, do I have enough butter? This butter's going to be too hard. They're going to hate it. And he's thinking about me. And we end up having this conversation where he's like, I have this position I need to open up, and I want you, and I need to fill it, and I would like you to have the position, but I can't just give it to you. I need you to earn it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And at the end of the 30 days, I got the job. I was working for a solar company at the time. So yeah, I did solar too. In between my HIM career, I did 5 years in solar, and I was so grateful for those 5 years, because it gave me an opportunity I didn't realize they needed. It helped me strengthen skills I didn't need. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I'm not working in the HIM world, I'm not using my career, use where you are to your advantage. And so I end up getting this job as the strategic operations manager for a solar company. And I loved it. I loved what I did. And what it did is, by him and then he mentored me for years after that. And what it did for me is it brought me out of the living of day to day, of going through the motions. It challenged me to have something and to make it better. And the other thing that he gave me, and we're going to have to apologize, I have a couple of swears, is every time we would meet, it was this metaphorical, hey, do you want to see a picture of a badass? And I'd be like, of course I do. And he would pull out this mirror from his back pocket.
Oh,
And of
that's
course,
awesome.
and now this mirror is a very specific mirror because it was the exact mirror from Beauty and the Beast, the 1992 cartoon classic from Disney, right? It was that specific mirror. And he'd hold it up to my face and he's like, here it is. And I'm like, get that out of my face. You're full of it. You're full of it. But every interaction was that metaphorical. Do you want to see a picture of a badass?
That's cool.
Every
awesome.
single interaction. Until one day he walked up to me and says, do you want to see a picture of a badass? And I pulled out that mirror and I was like, damn, she looks good today. Right?
That's
and so
funny.
when we mentor, we're giving people that power to hold their own mirror and go, I can do this. I can make it through. And I talk about the Pygmalion effect. Have you ever heard of the Pygmalion effect? Okay, I will never, ever stop talking about the Pygmalion effect. And the Pygmalion effect is that when our belief in someone's potential brings that potential to life. And Sean Achor has a fantastic book called The Happiness Advantage. And I've actually gotten to meet Sean Achor. He's an amazing human being. But he talks about Pygmalion was from Greek mythology, and he was a sculptor. And he sculpted this woman, and it was out of stone, and it was his finest work. And he fell in love with it. But he wasn't in love with the stone. He wasn't in love with the woman. He was in love with the potential of what he was doing. Mm. And so in 1938, George Bernard Shaw writes the play Pygmalion. And you're like, why is this still sounding so familiar? Because it's the basis for My Fair Lady. Wow. One of my favorite movies with Audrey Hepburn and Rex Harrison and all of her phenomenal dresses. I mean, it's Audrey Hepburn, come on. But the story is this man takes a woman, a Cockney flower girl, and he makes a bet with his friend and says, I bet you I could turn her into a duchess. And she agrees because what she wants, she's like, I just want to work in a shop. Right. And he turns her into a duchess. She goes to that big party. She wears that beautiful dress and they think she's a duchess. They think she's something more than what she is. And so she just was settling. She was just going to settle to be a shop girl when he turns her into something more. Sean Achor talks about the study that was done that they did all this testing of students and just standardized testing. And the guy who did all the standardized testing comes back to the teachers and he's like, okay, so we got Billy, Bobby, Susan, and Jane. They all tested really, really high. These guys are your smart kids. And at the end of the year, he comes back, retests the kids, and Billy, Bobby, Susan, and Jane all test high. Well, here's the joke, not necessarily the joke, but here's the secret, is those 4 kids all tested average. They had average test scores. But once he planted that idea into the heads of the teachers that these are your smart students, the teachers saw the potential for them to become something more. I am a big believer in our HIMA Code of Ethics, number 13, as respecting the inherent dignity of all of our people. There's something, every person has something to offer us. We can learn from each other. And sometimes we just need to get out of our own way and figure out, we're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And that's fine. I know. I know I'm awesome. I know I'm amazing. I know I'm a badass, but most people are like, I can take you or leave you.
Goodness.
But, we have something that we can learn from each other and we can strengthen each other. And right now, pardon my politics, but we are in a world where we need to be better to one another.
Mm.
Yeah, I want to, I love that you're talking about mentoring this way. And it is true. Mentoring is really about lifting somebody up, helping them even it's seeing something and what's possible in another person that they don't see themselves. And that is incredible. But I can also tie that to service a bit because when you do serve, it's a selfless thing. It's not just like good mentors are completely selfless. They're getting a reciprocal impact. Absolutely. Yeah. They are, but it's not because they're doing a selfish thing that they mentor. And service is the same. You're going to enrich your life by being a servant, a volunteer, just by default. And so being a mentor, if you are an appropriate and a healthy mentor, being a mentor is going to enrich your life while you are also enriching that mentee's life
Mm-hmm.
as well. And so I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about the health information profession, I guess specifically, by the way, thank you. Your story is great. And I really have appreciated this conversation.
Thank you.
How do you see the future of the health information profession just progressing? And what do you think we should be raising our hands to get involved in?
Everything.
I agree with you, but say more.
Yeah. So I am, I won't lie. I've kind of been disconnected to the HIM world for a little bit, simply because I was in solar for so long, and I'm just coming back heavily into the HIM world. But I've been paying attention to a few things. And one of the things that people are really scared of is AI. And I downloaded ChatGPT on my phone one day, and I needed it for something else. I needed help writing some things. And so I discovered that I could also take pictures of my cat and turn them into Lisa Frank photos. And so that's what I'm currently using my ChatGPT and my AI for. I mean, I'm using them for, powers of good and occasional evil. But I think it's something that we need to become friends with.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's like, oh, AI, big and scary. Yeah, okay. I mean, I saw Terminator 2. I mean, so I get it. But I think it's something that we need to become friends with, and that we shouldn't ever be afraid of change. But AI has been around for a long time. I mean, computer assisted coding, what do you think it is? It's AI. I think change is hard. I don't care if you're okay with change or if you're not okay with change. Change can be hard. We need to get out of our own way and see the opportunities for growth and for change. I worked for one facility that they had been doing things a certain way for years. And I'm like, guys, this is not, we got to change. And there was so much resistance that essentially kept them going backwards. And we're not, I've been doing health informations long enough that I remember paper records. I remember HIPcast records, and now getting into the EHR. We just have to keep up with the change, keep educated too. Don't stay stagnant. Getting involved. Like for me, my state association right now is Utah, because I've had so much chaos going on in my last few years of my life. I've just stayed with the same state association, but I live in Washington State. And so for me, volunteering, there was a call for board members, and I'm like, I would absolutely love to do this, but I don't think I would be of service to you being, that long distance. So instead I volunteered to speak. I'm speaking for you guys. I'm also speaking for Oregon. I spoke for Utah last year. That's how I volunteer. I look at my capacity and go, what can I do? And right now it's speaking at different events and being on podcasts with you guys. But yeah, it's hard, but don't learn about the change, become informed. Mm-hmm. If you have a boss that's not is just going to be like, hey, this is just happening. First of all, we need to get a buy-in, and sometimes that buy-in comes from finding the information ourselves.
Yeah, and there's a place for HI professionals in HI or in AI. There's too many acronyms. Here we go.
Right.
But I had a meeting yesterday with the health system, and we got into the conversation on agentic AI and different processes, robotic automation, all kinds of fun conversations. And it boiled down to a conversation that they're having inside their health system of, we have to have governance around this. And they have an entire team that they've put in place that is an AI governance team that stops all projects and says, where's the human involved in this?
Expert. Mm-hmm. I want to change that to expert in the loop instead of human in the loop.
Well, and that's
fair.
Just
be a human.
But I think that's an important. I sat there and I thought, I don't think I've heard anybody necessarily talk about that. We do talk about the fear that AI is going to come in and do this, that, and the other, take jobs, whatever. But this health system was very important, or very keen on saying, we want to make sure that we insert the expert at the right moment with the AI to utilize the efficiencies that AI will bring in the process, but yet still use the human brain to make final decisions on certain things before we affect patient care, affect the process, affect whatever it may be. And I thought, I love that, because that's where HI sits. That's where our profession sits, is that human that validates the process, that provides the governance. So there's another tangent that I went on that I just I was thinking about that yesterday. Like, that was fantastic.
No, and I think that's great, because what we're doing is we're no longer within the HIM world. We're no longer saying, okay, this person does this, we all do this. We're creating what we call subject matter experts, or SMEs. If we don't want to add another acronym, it's a SME, SME, subject matter expert. And I always think of every time I hear SME, I think of Shmi from Peter Pan, right? Captain Hook's right-hand man, Shmi. He was his right-hand man, and I love the Robin Williams one, and it was Bob Hoskins, and what is his name?
Dustin Hoffman. And
he's like, Shmi, don't stop me, Shmi. Shmi, don't stop me, stop me, Shmi. Yeah, right. We all need that Shmi to either stop us or don't stop us. And having a subject matter expert ties back into that mentorship, right? Because we have someone who knows, say, cardiac procedures. I code a myriad of diagnoses. I'm coding hearts, I'm coding dementias, long-term care, I'm coding fractures, I'm coding, a wide range of things in my job. And I'm the only one. I'm the only one here at, I work for Martha and Mary Health Services, and I'm the only RCO in-house. The rest of our RCO is outsourced. And so I'm constantly looking towards, when I first started, I emailed Rick Martin at Weber State. I was like, Rick, I need your help, because I knew Rick had worked in long-term care for a long time. So I was like, I know my network. I know who I can call for this question. I know who I can ask for that question. I know who my subject matter experts are. And what I did is what I've done in throughout any of my jobs is I build my network.
You have
Who
to.
can I go to for this? And then it ties back into mentorship, because if I can find my subject matter expert, right? My subject matter expert is my built-in mentor. Yeah. That is the person that can look at me and go, here's what I can teach you. Here's how I can do that. You, as a subject matter expert, have a built-in mentorship already, because you know what you're doing. And we're building a world of subject matter, building a world of SMEs.
SMEs are really your ground floor mentor, where most people are thinking of that balcony mentor, where that's that overarching, but the ground floor is really that. Okay, well, thank you for this conversation. This was so fun, so refreshing and light, even though some of the content was challenging,
a little heavy,
but it was great. And I do want to ask, Seth, did you pick up that unintended pun? Please tell me you did.
I don't know. Which one did I miss?
I know. I wondered the same thing.
You didn't. Yeah, you. I'm sure it was completely unintentional. However, you said I code cardiac. Y'all don't get
like
it?
A code.
Oh my gosh, you guys are slow, and I'm so blind here. What in the world?
Who would have thought we're starting coding dad jokes on HIPcast here?
This was so good. It's so nice to meet you. I look forward to seeing you in person, and I appreciate you sharing your story. And
Absolutely.
Seth and I will get on that train with you to say volunteer and mentor. Absolutely, you should volunteer with your component association or your local HI association. If you don't know where else to get started, or even if you're already volunteering in your church or in your community or at your community center or whatever it is, volunteer for your health information, whatever, the state, the local, the national, it doesn't matter. Just get involved.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, it's been a great time, Shannan. Until next time, my friend.
See you next time, buddy.
Thanks, everyone.